Well, it's about having buy-in from your patient too.
Mm-hmm.
So your patient needs to want to be part of it. And I think redefining pharmacy has been kind of a cool thing. So at the beginning of COVID also, we were doing anxiety and depression questionnaires. I mean, it's part of Pioneers.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't just use them for people that CPESN gave me. I was rolling that out to almost everybody because I kind of saw at the beginning that COVID was going to mess with us mentally and not just physically.
Yeah, and it's been a toll.
Right.
But what was really cool about it was that those conversations from those assessments redefined pharmacy without having to give them a definition of what pharmacy is all about. Because they're looking at me like, why are you asking this? I'm like, this is why. We're having a conversation because you're part of my community, you're my patient, and we want to be on the same page as we go through this. So now conversations, when they come back to me, are a lot more meaningful. Isn't it just about Ed is filling my prescription that the doctor sent over and making sure it's accurate? It's Ed filling prescription, making sure it's accurate, but he's also watching other things. Not necessarily that are related to a blood pressure medication, but me holistically.
Can you give me a for instance? Give me an example.
I had a patient that she was a cancer patient, severe pain, and her medications didn't warrant the medication regimen that she was on. So I called the oncologist and a family doctor. We got medications changed. I think it was amitriptyline to Cymbalta. We tweaked some of her other medications. When we did the assessment, she was just non-communicative. Dementia seemed to be going from mild to like more on the more severe side. Her daughter was having a hard time communicating with her and taking care of her. We made those minor adjustments, changed some times of day that she was taking her medication. She's then sleeping better. The Cymbalta was managing her medications better. She was taking less of her opioids. Within about 2 weeks, her daughter was like, Mom is talking. She's more active in her own health care and taking care of herself. She could actually have a conversation, an enjoyable conversation, and she's interested in communicating with friends. But it took the two of them coming in. We did the assessment. We did the questionnaire. Daughter's looking at me like, why are we doing this? I'm like, because we want to put the pieces together. This is part of the pieces of the puzzle. So we're looking at the assessment. We're looking at her medications, where she was, looking at her quality of life measures. I mean, I don't think we look at those enough. I mean, my quality of life measures are different than the both of yours, and it's different than my neighbors. Sometimes we miss those, and, we're pushing what our quality of life is on somebody, and, it doesn't marry what we really want. But since then, it's her and her family and her family's family now are like, they know when they come to me, it's different. It's a different experience.
Nice. That's great. And it's funny some of those times when you get those kind of questions, I remember like I guess it's about 6 years ago when my mom was in the hospital. She had pancreatic cancer and they were just giving her a lot of morphine, and she would call me at like 2 a.m. and say like, they're coming to get me. And I was like, what? So I went down and I asked the doctor, I was like, hey, can I just see her med chart? And they showed it to me, and I was like, dude, can we switch from morphine to hydromorphone? We can go with a lower dose, swapped it out. It was like instantly different. And they were like, I didn't even think about that. Just those things where you're looking at like, I know my mom, she's not a paranoid person. These are things that I notice because I know her. And those are things that you're going to notice because you know your patients and you see them once a month, sometimes more. And that's not what they're supposed to be like.
No, because you see them daily. So when I have pharmacy students coming through, I learn so much from them clinically. I love it when I get a student because I get all this cutting edge new stuff coming my way. It's great. But the problem is they don't know how to use that great wealth of knowledge. So what I work on is how are they going to translate that to a patient? You just can't talk to them about facts. You need to get in their head. So Coumadin, for instance, I was, telling her, okay, when we're counseling, we want to make sure that we can, that they're good about taking it at the same time every day and, compliance and adherence. And So they're having a conversation, and he was like missing the point of like how we're going to make sure he takes this medication regularly. And like, so I came over, I'm like, what's the last thing you do at night? It's like, well, I put my glasses down on the table in the kitchen. You're going to put your Coumadin there. Every time you put your glasses down, you're going to take your Coumadin. That's how you're going to know you're going to take your medication every night. And we talked to the student afterwards. I'm like, you don't have to overcomplicate things. Make it easy for them. Get into their head, see what their life is about, so you could give them that information in a chunk that means something to them. And then you're going to get better outcomes. And they're going to rely on you and trust you because you're listening to those little tidbits. And it can be something small like that or something bigger like the morphine to the hydromorphone.
Like you said, the art of conversation.
It is. And I was afraid to have those conversations before, at least on, a level with like Commissioner Leinbach. Up until then, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have just sat there. We had Senator Muth at one of our COVID clinics. I said, I am so happy that you're here, but can we talk? You need to know more about PBM reform and DIR fees.
Oh, that's good.
So a 15-minute conversation turned into about an hour conversation with her. She really wanted to learn more about how it impacts us and how it impacts the patient. Because no, it doesn't positively impact the patient. It's taking funds away from us that we can give back to our community and our patients in a very negative way. And she's looking at that like, yeah, you're kind of right. I'm at, top 5% of my peers, 5-star rated, and I'm being rewarded by taking $30,000 quarterly.
Right. Instead of some other bigger number, right? It doesn't feel like.
That's absurd.
Yeah, I know.
She's like, well, it could be worse.
Yeah, no, right? Like that shouldn't be the bar, right? Like
a win shouldn't be less painful than it could have possibly been.
Right.
So I pushed forward. We have our lab license now and our CLIA waiver, so where you can do strep, HIV testing, flu testing. It's been an exhilarating, exciting adventure. And that's why I think being here, I wasn't sure what I could actually give to you guys. If I could give anything, it's telling people in my position that had their head in the sand, get out there and do what you do because you're doing it right, but just put it in a way that's meaningful with the care plans. Have a voice and advocate for yourself to your local, officials and PPA and PPCN and CPA, because we all want the same thing. We want better patient outcomes, but we want our profession to get its just due.